Welcome to Garden Wise Adventures. My name is Malie, and today we have another exciting video. And as you can see beside me, I have another raised metal garden bed. Now this is the same bed as my circular bed, and I'll link the video up here that I made of that one. And this is a Vegega bed. Now since I created the last video, I actually purchased this bed and then got an email from Vegega asking me if I wanted to be an affiliate for their program. Now I've never done that before. I've thought about it before, but I really didn't want to be an affiliate for any program for products that I hadn't used or wouldn't use. But I have to tell you, I absolutely love these beds, so I agreed. So now I'm an affiliate for that program, and if you look down below, you'll see a link to their product, and so that you can look through their website and see what you like, and then there's also a 10% discount. But I just wanted to tell you why I like these beds. Number one, they're a very tough bed. They've got some sort of coating, they call it a ZAM coating, that makes it so it doesn't rust. It's supposed to be able to last for 20 years. Now, as you've seen my other beds, I do have block raised beds. I want beds that I'm not going to have to replace. I didn't ever want to use wood beds because I really don't want to have to rebuild them in a few years. So I had thought about raised metal beds, but I worried about a few things. First thing I worried about is beds overheating. But I've talked to a lot of people who use the raised metal beds, and they say the overheating is no more an issue than it would be in a wood bed. The next thing that I worried about is how hard it would be to put together and take apart. And let me show you how easy it is to put together. Now the bed that I got is 17 inches tall, and the reason I got it 17 inches tall is this is my old dog run, and if I ever decide to get dogs again, I want something that would be tall enough to kind of maybe discourage dogs from jumping into it. I know it wouldn't prevent them from jumping into it, but at least it's tall enough that it's not as much of a temptation to just walk over it. And so I got the 18-inch tall bed, and this one is their 9-in-1. Now the reason they call it a 9-in-1 is the first size that they promote is 8 feet long and 2 feet wide. But the amazing thing about these beds is you can put them together in any configuration you want. This one that I put together is 6 feet by 3.5 feet wide. Now I could narrow it by taking that panel out and adding it to this side right here. And then just screw those two corner panels together, and I'll have a 2 foot wide bed that's 8 feet long. Or you can do it any configuration that you want. There's 9 configurations, and I'll let you just look at the website to see what that looks like. They have 8-inch tall beds and 32-inch tall beds. I didn't want the 32-inch tall bed because that just seemed a little bit too big for my needs. But anyway, if you look at this bed, instead of like 6 or 7 screws, 8 screws, however many screws, you only have 4. Now I have arthritis, I have fibromyalgia, I have a lot of issues with pain. So sitting here and screwing together tons and tons of bolts just was not up my alley. But this came together in about 20 minutes. It was extremely easy to put together. So that was another one of my requirements, is it had to be easy to put together. Emptying it out should not be that hard if I need to move it. Anyway, I'm really happy with these beds. Now let me show you what I did to put irrigation in it, because I want automatic irrigation. I don't want to have to come out and hand water every day. So I thought about it for a while. And the zone for my garden bed drip irrigation all connects way over on the other side. Now I could have dug a little trench and run a hose over here, but I was afraid that would have reduced pressure for my other garden beds. So what I decided to do instead, and I'll do another video on how I connect all this up together, but I decided to put a clock on my hose bib. Now this hose bib is a secondary water hose bib. It's not connected to culinary water. If it was connected to culinary water, I would have probably needed a backflow preventer. But I connected it all here with a pressure reducer and filter, and we'll go over that in a later video. Put a blank hose here. Dug a little trench under my garden bed and then stapled the weed fabric over the top. And then just ran it up under the bed. And then I will connect this to the drip line. And I'll show you how to do that later. Now, I could have left just blank soil down here, but I was starting to see weeds come through already. This area of my backyard, as I said, is a dog run, and I had planned on keeping this in gravel and not putting anything here. But I'm slowly starting to change my mind. I think I'm going to get another Vegega bed and put it right there, where that blank spot is, and then just leave paths next to it. Now I don't know if the weed fabric will stay and I put gravel over it, or weed fabric and mulch, or take up the weed fabric. We'll just see what happens. Now, one issue that I do have is these huge trees that are my neighbors are cottonwood trees. And if you could see right here, I get cottonwood tree sprouts all the way down here. And I was finding bindweed and cottonweed sprouts coming up through here. Now the cardboard is not going to stop those. I may have an issue with this bed with cottonwood trees coming up in it, and if I do, then it's easy to take apart and move it someplace else. So we'll have to see how this works out. Now, if you watch videos about raised metal beds, there's a lot of different ways to fill them up. And you can use garden waste, you can use wood mulch, you can use sticks and twigs and prunings and all sorts of different things. So I decided that I needed to figure out what I could start filling this bed with, because soil, garden soil, is really expensive and I didn't want to have to purchase that much soil. So what I did have is some logs and some stumps from my globe blue spruce and my Alberta spruce that we dug out of the front yard. So I talked to a few people to see if these would be okay to use, and they're absolutely going to be okay. Now, if we were in a wetter climate, I could eventually, and I say eventually, meaning years from now, these could decompose and become part of the soil in the raised bed. But because we're here in Utah and precipitation is very low, matter of fact, it's going to be hard to keep the entire profile of this bed wet. These will probably not decompose for many, 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 many years. So these will just be space fillers. All these little logs and everything are just going to be space fillers at the bottom of the bed. So let's start getting this bed filled up. So the first thing I'm going to do is just place the stumps kind of down the center. And then just kind of place the logs around those in the open areas. Now these are not taking up a ton of space, and I do have a bunch of old hay that I was mulching my fruit trees with, my fig trees, and I do have some bags of leaves, and I could add that if I wanted, and that would be just great and more of a space filler. But I actually want to use those. I'm going to chop those up with some grass from when I mow my lawn, and I want to use those to mulch my garden beds. So I think what I'm going to do is just fill this up with soil. Let me kind of show you the soil that I'm using. So this is my soil. Right here is a mixture of some compost mulch. I covered my front yard in compost mulch, and I had some extra, probably maybe about 1/8 of a cubic yard. Then I used 2 bags of sphagnum peat moss, the 2 by 2 cubic yard bags of sphagnum peat moss. So there's 2 of those. There's a full bag of vermiculite and 8 bags of mushroom compost. And I mixed all of those together. I just kind of poured them all out all over here and mixed them all together. And I'm hoping that this will fill the bed. I'm pretty sure that it will fill the bed. So let's start shoveling and see how far we get. And this is what the finished product looks like. I love it when a good plan comes together. I kind of guessed off what it took me to fill my round bed. Let me go show you the round bed. Now this is the 17-inch round bed. I've got some sunchokes growing in here and a couple of nasturtiums coming up. The back side of this bed is going to be for squash because I'm going to plant a ton of squash. I'm going to plant some squash in the ground over here, some squash in here until the sunchokes start to take over. And once the sunchokes take over, this will be their dedicated bed. I bought the 17-inch bed here so that it would contain the sunchokes. And yeah, I'm really happy with that one. And this bed right here is going to also have squash. I love pepitas. I use a lot of them. Those are the shelled squash seeds. And you actually don't shell them. They grow without a shell. So I bought some naked bear squash seeds that are pepitas, and I'm going to plant those here. I think I'm going to put 3 in this bed and just let them sprawl all over. So thank you for coming along with me on this venture. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you do enjoy my videos, please like and subscribe, share them with your friends, and go have a wonderful garden adventure.